slow. Men in rooms will never know. Maps of people, lines in red. Who gets born and who goes dead? They don't shout, they don't command. They move the world with a quiet hand. History bends when a trigger sings. Truth gets buried under official things. If you ask too loud, you disappear. Static answers, silence here. They call it balance, call it fate, call it saving us too late. Plagues and cures from the same demand. Change you never see, never understand. Count the bodies, count the land. All ruled by the quiet hand. Books predict the end of man. Funded fear becomes the plan. Classrooms train the chosen few to see the many as a flaw to prune. Numbers matter more than names. Human life reduced to claims. Institutes with holy seals. Truth negotiated behind steel. Hate arrives with hidden cost. Some are saved, the rest are lost. They call it progress, call it care. Needle screams and silent prayers. Watch the borders, watch the brand. All ruled by the quiet hand. Lab lights glow, a virus breathe. Markets bloom from human greed. Track the blood, tag the mind. Freedom traded, done its sign. Steel and flesh begin to blend. Machine and man, no waiting. They call it safety, call it clean. A managed life, a measured dream. If you resist, you're contraband. In the age of the quiet hand. No crowns, no flags, no throne to see. Just systems humming endlessly. If this is fate, then take a stand before you're owned by the quiet hand.
And then I heard about campaign finance reform, and it's like, well, we have to limit this and license this. And I'm like, Why don't we just eliminate it all? Why do we even have campaigns? Why don't we just have a series of debates a few weeks before the election? And up until that time, politicians do their jobs instead of like gallivanting all over the place. It's gotten to the point where you get elected and then you immediately start campaigning for reelection. So a big thing is the corruption that money brings. If we could remove all money from politics, and it just seems to me like a no-brainer. And yet, in the public discourse, it's never been allowed up until the time now that the internet is out there. You hear these ideas being kicked around, but it's an idea that they would never allow. You'd never see an editorial in the New York Times saying, "Hey, let's stop letting politicians like, you know, everyone that enters the Senate leaves it a millionaire, no matter how much they go into the Senate with. By the time they get out, they are multimillionaires." There's something wrong there. There's something just so obviously wrong, and then nobody seems to just say, "All right, let's just stop it." Not let's modify it. Let's do just stop.
But here's the thing, right? This is the ultimate consequence of indirect democracy, where we have representative government that's supposed to do what the people want, but they never end up actually fucking doing it because it's more profitable for them to just like.
Well, it introduces that other factor, because in theory you should be answerable to your constituents because you depend upon them for your reelection. But if you're more dependent upon, you don't give a shit about reelection because you're going to have a nice job with Raytheon. And look
at Donald Trump right now. He can't get reelected. So what interest is there for him to follow what the people want? Right? I mean, apart from the midterm,
he's establishing a legacy. He's establishing a legacy, I think, and he has climbed upon the populist tiger. You cannot dismount from it easily. And he's already shown some, he reminds me a lot of Teddy Roosevelt. He is, if you read like the contemporary accounts of Roosevelt, everything they say about Trump, they said about Roosevelt: populist, destroying democracy, a demagogue, right? There's a great political cartoon I posted once in a while. It's Roosevelt riding an elephant with blinders and spurs and a riding crop and just making the grand old party go wherever he wants. And the painting was by Vox Populi. In other words, his populist power gave him power. He reshaped the Republican Party in his own name. Sound familiar? And I mean, if you read like the contemporary journalists of the time, they hated him. The press hated him. He was seen as the worst monster, and he made a huge mistake. He was president for one term, and then he stepped away from it, and then he came back, and he had no hope. They closed ranks, and they locked him out of politics after that. He ran on the third party, Bull Moose Party. And I really think that when that was a step that Trump didn't take. There was a big push, and they were really wanted him to start a third party at one point. And he's like, "Why? We've got the Republican Party." He stuck with that and followed the Roosevelt playbook more completely. But I really think he's looking at Teddy Roosevelt as a model.
Now, I want to point something out too. Like you guys were talking. You guys were talking about a Republican.
Elections. Let me just finish my point quickly, Roger, before we move on.
I'm not moving on. I just wanted
we already knew that the elections were rigged, and this is like supposed to be the most modern democracy in the world, right? And we knew the elections were rigged from day one. Yet it's only taken up until now before anything is being done, anything is being fully investigated. And
only because the opposition got into power to do it too.
Now,
they're putting people in jail just for questioning it.
It's cool. It's cool that you guys are talking about Donald Trump. I want to put this in because
okay.
Now this
you guys are issue with this.
Let's talk about republics. First of all, republics aren't as great as what you guys are making it out to, and a good example of that would be the Republic of Florence. Okay, now whenever Tuscany was running the Republic of Florence, they had what was called the Signoria. It was the Signoria of Signoria or something like that of Florence, and this consisted of guilds that dictated and ruled what was being said. It was a priori, okay, and they were chosen by the guilds of the city, and there were 6 of them, and those were the major guilds, and then I think there were a few other ones that were what they called minor guilds. These are the people who ran freaking this republic. Okay, so
Well, that would go back to the Roman Republic. I mean, and that's the model that, the U.S. took. I mean, just look at the buildings down in D.C., right?
Mm-hmm.
They all wanted to be Romans.
Exactly.
But the Roman Republic, you had the Senate, which were the optimates, and these were the property owners, the people with power, the aristocrats. And then you had the people, the populi. That's why it was Senatus Populusque Romanus. It was the Senate and the people of Rome. Some populist emperors, and there were many of them, reversed it. Their banner said the people and the Senate of Rome, PSQR, which the Senate didn't like, but they couldn't do much about. So you had that the ruling body was composed of the aristocrats. You didn't elect senators in ancient Rome. You were selected for the senatorial order if you had sufficient wealth and family. And the people would oppose things simply through their mass. They was considered part of the political process. So there was one point where the city was in trouble. The populace didn't feel they were being treated well, so they just left the city and they wouldn't enlist in the army. And what could they, they were like, and that's how they got tribunes, who were the people's representatives. So it was always a balancing act between the haves and the have-nots. And that's why, when Aristotle was writing about governments, he talks about how if the aristocrats, his terminology, but I think it's familiar to us, what we see today, if the aristocrats run things, they're going to run things just for the sake of the aristocrats and harm everybody else. If the people run things directly, then they're going to run things for the people and harm everyone else. What you need is a balance through, as Mr. Robot was saying, through checks and balances and a constitution. This is an attempt to try to find a middle path and something that will bring the greatest happiness to everyone. Because yes, just about any government system can be made to work. But Aristotle was seeking for something that would bring the greatest happiness to the greatest number and the most prosperity to everyone in the state, rather than just as one subgroup. So
I agree with that. That should be our overarching goal. But I also think that speaks to V's point, which is that that's not a true republic where the power resides with the people. Right?
That's where we're coming into definitions of things. This is how the Roman, they called it res publica. It simply means public affairs.
And
really,
that was actually an idea that was never achieved. Okay, like all the stuff that you hear Plato talking about, they never achieved a true republic like Plato wanted.
Well, but Plato's republic was a dictatorship,
right?
And Plato's republic was a horrible authoritarian dictatorship.
Now, Mark Edworthy was pissed off, so let's hear him talk some horrible stuff.
I just want to finish my point. You talked over me. Okay. I think we actually have the ability to achieve that today and maximize happiness across everyone by using modern technology to solve the corruption problem, right? And that includes taking corruption out of the voting system, which includes publicly verifiable voting using blockchain technology. We have that right now; it's free. And in terms of enforcing,
it just magically appears. I think you are being ideologically. You live in an ideological fantasy land. This case,
let me just finish my point, Mark. And yes, it already exists. It doesn't have to magically appear. We just need to start using it.
Though. Some of that you build it. Some of that you be paid.
I'm actually building it myself. I know of at least 3 different groups that are building similar technologies. All right. Now the principles are there, the building blocks are there. We're not using it. And in terms of enforcing the people's will, so we have a problem where politicians, when they get elected, they don't do what they ran on, right? And we have such a concept as a decentralized autonomous organization in blockchain now, where smart contracts can be used to achieve governance. And we're not using that in politics yet, but we could hypothetically enforce the people's will through smart contracts in the future.
I wish Bob were here. He would love to hear these words. I hope he listens to this later. This is right up what Bob's been talking about for a long time.
At the same time, as part of the checks and balances, we need to enforce strict consequences and punishment for corruption and enforce the people's will through the people's militia. Because the problem is when the politicians have enforce their own when they police themselves, that breeds corruption. So we need an external police force that are enacted by the people, just kind of like the Americans envisioned initially, where the people can enforce the law. So anyway,
Now,
that's all I want.
And
No.
remind you of the French Revolution. That didn't turn out very nice, didn't it?
Well,
was,
that was
sort of-
kind of instigated by the aristocracy as well.
Now-
Set up.
Okay.
You
Okay,
you had
just
mean
so-
stuff to say. You better let him have it. Let him have it, Mark. Go.
Yeah. First of all, you, Mr. Robert, ascertained that there was corruption in what was the 2020 US elections. That has not been fully ascertained. Has not been proven in a court of law. It has not. So it's an allegation.
No throne survives distributed well! No empire runs a signal spell! You can't suppress what multiplies! We synchronize! We are the layer! We are the loud! We are the core! Unbroken wall! Ascend! Ascend!
Not an actual thing at this present moment. Remember, everybody's innocent until proven guilty.
They won't even let it in court, though. They've no
Yeah,
court
that's
has
my
been willing
point.
to
It's
hear
like,
any
whose
of it.
court?
Well,
Whose court are you going to use? Are you going to use the Queen's court to
well,
keep the
yeah. Granted, there is an issue
I
with
thought it's a king now.
the principle.
No, really.
Now,
I agree with
So-
that. I think there should be a process for that for sure.
Yeah.
There should be trials. I would love to see this stuff come to trial. They won't allow it. They haven't allowed it. There's been, I remember watching something like 8 or 9 hours, and I actually recorded it so it wouldn't get memory hold, of men and women of all walks of life, races, ages, coming and talking about massive voting fraud that they witnessed. These were signed affidavits, which are evidence. So there is a lot of evidence, and no court would accept any of these suits. Because then all this stuff would be read publicly, and what kind of a decision could you come to when people are said, "Yeah, I've seen this. Again, it's like 1,000 people saw this stuff. So I have serious questions about the 2020 election allegation. Yes, I'll agree with that. Technically, it is an allegation, but at the same time, where did those like extra 11 million voters suddenly come from that disappeared once people started looking really hard at things? You know,
That's
and again, none of this would even be looked at if the opposition party hadn't been able to get into power, and if enough people hadn't been infuriated. I was infuriated by this. My vote was negated by these people. They took away the one little thing I have left, which is the franchise. You know, when you're messing with the franchise, people get very upset, and I think there's a great deal of anger in this country over the 2020 election. A lot of it that you don't see in the mainstream media, because, of course, for the longest time, videos, I have friends of mine who had videos taken down simply because they talked about the 2020 election a little bit. That sounds real. And every time you read in the news, and he won, he won, he really won. It's like, methinks thou dost protest too much. It was just this shrill, hysterical, he really is the president. Brandon really did win. I mean, it was over the top. So, I mean, if it looks like a duck and it quacks like a duck, and yeah.
And we all know what
Probably
happens
tastes
when
like
there's no justice for the people.
Okay, now hold
the
on.
next step is revolution.
V
So-
had something to say. I can't believe I'm actually saying it, but V has something to say.
He said it's if it walks like a duck, it talks like a duck, and it probably tastes like goose.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay.
I've got a second point.
You don't know until you try.
He's got a second point he wants to bring up. So let's
second
hear
point.
this. Let's hear
A
this.
republic is just a state of in which a political power rests with the people, which we all agree with. Yet a monarch is where the monarch approves of the elected official or the elected representative. But if you have a look at what's happened, at least with it since Queen Victoria II time, the concept of the monarch is just the rubber stamping is just a formal sort of exercise these days. It's nothing more than just a sort of fantasy sort of thing.
Formality.
Yeah.
Could you imagine that the British public voted for a popular person and the monarch not refusing that? That wouldn't happen.
Victoria tried it, I think, but
think they're gonna
wasn't
tell
she
you?
didn't like Gladstone or something? You have to. I think that started with the Georges, didn't it? With the Hanoverians, George the First was like very much into constitutionalism and stuff, so they really started giving Parliament a lot more say, and subjecting themselves to the political necessities of the time, which I've been heard is the reason for the continuance of the monarchy as opposed to the French monarchy, which was just like what was that great thing in Blackadder where he saw the French aristocrat? Do you want to work? No, I want other people to work and give me their money, like in the old days in France. That's that's a great system, depending on who you are.
Yeah.
I also
My issue with that whole concept of like the head of state being what do you call it, Mark? When they're just like they don't have any real power.
Figurehead.
Figurehead. My issue with that is there's no transparency in that process for the people, and if that figurehead secretly had power, they're not going to tell you the truth. They're going to just reign through their appointed governors and blame them when something goes wrong. You know what I mean? And I think in order to have true justice, there needs to be transparency and accountability. And
but
we can't have that with a monarch.
In modern day British politics, the monarch hasn't really got any power at all.
I think
that's what they tell you, but they still have power on the books. They still have the ability to do it.
I remember I had a conversation with a Canadian once about they have a governor general, of course, because even though they're an independent country, they still have the king on their money. And the governor general has to approve everything. He acts as the monarch, like Mark was saying, puts the rubber stamp and makes it official because it's, after all, His Majesty's Mail Service and His Majesty's Navy. And in theory, everything actually belongs to His Majesty, who graciously allows everybody to own it. So I asked him, I said,
to dismiss the prime minister if they want against the will of the people.
In theory, yeah. But so I talked to this Canadian and I said, "You guys have a governor general, right?" So yes. So he has to allow the if they mobilize the army, he has to sign. You can't mobilize the Canadian army unless the governor general gives it the okay. I said, "What if he wouldn't sign it? What if he told you he wouldn't do it? What would you do?" And he said, "We would pack him off to London with a little note saying, 'Please don't send us another.'" So I think a lot of this is just a very delicate kind of a ritual that's only maintained because nobody actually tests it anymore. It would be interesting for the king to just say, "No, I don't like him. I'm going to appoint Joe Schmo as my prime minister because he's my prime minister. It's my navy. Send it over there. Kind of deal. Just take direct control." In theory, he could, but I don't know if they'd allow him to.
I've said this to these guys for a while.
Child exploitation and stuff like this, because if they ever stepped out of line, they would have 10 ways to bloody get back at them.
Well, hold on. Before you move on to that direction, what's being said there is actually kind of interesting because I've been saying this to you guys for a while when it comes to England and the colonies as well as most of Europe. Now, on this whole thing about the Republic, okay, The one thing that really sticks out to me is the fact that the whole structure behind how this supposed, parliamentary government is set up according to England and Canada and Australia and everything. Like, your prime ministers and your general governors are the ones who appoint your Senate, okay? And they wanted to do it here, you could tell, because now the vice president here in the United States, ever since the beginning of the United States, is appointed to be the head of the Senate. Okay.
Yeah, he's president of the Senate. Yeah.
And
Okay.
this is something that was freaking brought in from these republics like Florence, okay? They incorporated it into these other forms of government, and you can see it everywhere. Like, there should be no reason why your government is ran by freaking the prime minister who is appointed by the queen or king, okay? It should not happen. Like, the individual citizens of your
It's
country
not a
should be the
sovereign.
ones.
Actually, that's not true.
Kansas is not a sovereign.
You are
It is
conflating that.
it is a colony country that is underneath the Commonwealth of England. It's not a sovereign nation.
Commonwealth.
You're conflating something
That
here.
claims to be sovereign.
MPs in this country are voted in by the people. It is for the Prime Minister to decide who will be on the front benches, who will be in the cabinet. Yet backbenchers still hold quite a bit of power. If they wanted to rebel en masse, they can.
Is that the House of
see
Lords or something?
Sort of
No.
non-confident in
See, he's talking about the House of Commons, but we're talking about the House of Lords when it comes to freaking the Senate. The equivalent of our Senate would be the House of Lords, which isn't voted in by the people whatsoever.
Okay, I have a problem with the concept of voting in the House of Lords. Ideally, the House of Lords should only be staffed by people that are experts within their.
That's
That's a good idea.
well. See, that
You mean pedophiles?
Like advisors.
it's called. That's called.
So
That's,
if you were talking about, I don't know, climate issues, then you should be an expert in climate issues.
well, I mean, that's the way the elitists in England have held power in England, is because, like, what
They're
what
really
it was.
good at it.
They were nobles first, and then what happened was they lost their nobility, and they created a system that freaking gave them the power that they used to have. It's just like their estates.
Well, they perpetuate their power. You know, you can't do it through a sword and like owning land anymore. So the wise ones jumped over to commerce.
Yeah.
Or to things like that, which is where the power center moved. Power is a very interesting thing, and people will chase it. And those who refused to, they were the ones who became the decrepit, declining gentry. Can't afford the taxes on the house, have to let it out, and this and that. The smart guys, they got into banking, commerce, all those things that other people wouldn't dirty their hands with.
Mhm.
So the power
And
is
that's
always
why we're
chased by
always
somebody.
by psychopaths.
Well,
I also remind you that under British law, Parliament is sovereign. The last time our monarch tried to take control, he lost his head.
thank goodness.
Yes.
Now,
King Charles I. Sorry.
Make that great again.
now we don't need to be hearing that because you keep bad mouthing the dude to cut his head off, dude. Like, now,
Well, that's just factual.
Cromwell.
That's just history.
Cromwell was the greatest hero England ever had.
Talking to someone of partly Irish descent here, we must never forget
Cromwell. Cromwell forever, dude.
Remember, Cromwell created a dictatorship for 5 years after the war was after the war ended.
Well, if I was the guy who led a revolution to free these people, and these idiots came back to me and said, "Hey, man, we don't like this. We want to make you king. Why don't we just go back to the way it was?" I would be pretty pissed off considering that I had men on top of men die in 2 revolutions to free you, and now you want to just take and put it back the way it was.
The wheel ignites before our names. Time collapses into flame. Stars are born, stars decay. The end was written.
I find that very offensive to a man who actually did that. I mean, I would be highly pissed. You would not get any respect from me, and anybody who had any royal lineage would have been automatically put to death because of the amount of men who died in those two revolutions.
Well, I wouldn't take a demotion to king. He had a lot more power than the king did in his
Yeah.
position. He had the position without the hat, the funny hat that weighs 10 pounds. They got a
Let's
gold.
talk about the Moors with their big swinging 8 to 12 inches, conquered Europe twice. Hell, that's kept out of history.
Oh yeah, he keeps bringing that up.
No, I'm just kidding. I gotta go because my phone is dying. I have no way to charge and listen at the same time because I'm on an iPhone. Okay.
There is an argument to be made for the stupidity of people, you know? Like, I mean, you can set people free all day, but, like, if they think like slaves, they're always going to go back into slavery one way or another.
Exactly. There's a graduation in all things and in all people. And some people are prepared to, you know, that's where a lot of these collectivist, you know, anarcho-syndicalist ideas come from. It's like, oh, you finished an 8-hour workday. Now you've got to sit on the central committee for another 2 hours and decide, you know, what the bathroom break schedule is going to be. Most people don't want to do that.
Right.
You know, they're more than happy to hand that off, and I am too, for that matter. You know, for the most part, most of us just want like easy lives, and we want a system that works without us having to give it too much attention. And we leave it to the psychopaths and other people that like that sort of thing. You know, if we're lucky, they're fun to watch. Psychopath.
It reminds me of the Benjamin Franklin quote: "Those who give up essential liberty to purchase a little temporary safety deserve neither liberty nor safety."
Right.
Exactly.
I think that's a little bit harsh, but there is something to it.
Definitely.
Now,
I agree.
I will tell you one thing, man. This has been one debate that me and Mark actually talked about this quite a bit, and I know when it comes to politics, this is the kind of stuff I enjoy talking about. I don't like getting caught up in this whole Donald Trump, let's make America great, and Alex Jones bullshit. Yeah, you know what I mean? Like the conversation.
Not ill of our God Emperor.
Yeah, you know,
the mighty Orange Man.
Like
I don't know, that sort of stuff sells newspaper, the headline. It sells newspapers.
You know, and
it's okay, bread and circuses.
Like we've actually had a pretty solid conversation about this stuff in the last half hour, and that's with V actually being here because
he was pretty good.
You know, like I still have the VD hour, which I am going to do whenever we don't have any shows available. It's going to be the excerpts that I take from V, where he talks
after hours, no children allowed.
Right. And
21 and over.
And for you guys, if you want to come on here, just understand that's what this is. This is after midnight. So we have all kinds of conversations, okay? You can talk about UFOs, you can talk about conspiracy, politics.
Well, if it's going this late, I might be able to get Panyabasa on maybe on a weekend or something when he's not working, because he's got a great story about when he had an encounter with ogres in the jungles of Burma.
That'd be great.
It's really cool.
If it's going to be this late, I'm not going to be able to promise that I'm going to be able to.
You don't have to promise.
I don't know about this late, but
well, it's now 7:30 or 22:08 in the morning.
Yeah, but you can't tell me you didn't enjoy it thoroughly, dude. Freaking like.
No, I'm not saying. I'm just looking at practicalities.
Yeah, it's like 20 to 3 in the morning here.
I think Mark's expressions is half the show. Like,
yeah, it really is. It really is.
I'm contemplating.
My wife's going to be waking up soon to see a Scottish live stream.
I am quite a expressive person, and I think Nancy has actually pointed out. Nancy's pointed out quite a few times, and I communicate a lot through my expression and gestures.
Yeah.
You don't walk into a room, you settle it down. like the noise finally learned how to breathe. You got quiet strength in the words you don't say, and a fire you never show unless it's me. You carry your nights like maps in your hands. Every scar tells me where you've been. I don't need saving, I just need this. The way your presence pulls me in. You see me clear, not the shine or the show. You hear the truth in my softest tone. When the world gets heavy, you're where I land. No questions, no armor, just your hands. Every doubt loosens when you're near. I don't fall apart, I fall right here. Right here. Right here. You don't promise forever in pretty lines. You prove it by staying when it's hard. You let me be wild, you let me be still. You love every edge, every part. You don't chase control, you don't pull away. You meet me eye to eye, and somehow that's the bravest thing I've felt in my whole damn life. You don't try to own, you don't demand. You just stand steady, and I understand. When the world gets heavy, you're where I land. No fear between us, no need to pretend. Everyone softens when you're near. I don't lose myself, I'm found right here. Right If everything else fades to noise, if the lights go out, if I lose my voice, I'll still know the sound of you, like a truth that pulls me through. When the world gets heavy, you're where I land. Heart open, no distance, no second plan. Every road leads back to this, to the calm inside your kiss. I don't run, I don't disappear, I stay, because you're here. If love's a place, if it's something real, it looks like this, it feels like you.
when people try to say, no, I'd never said that, I'm like, dude, I got you on videotape. You want to go pull back the
Roll
film?
the tape.
Oh yeah, you got me.
Let's roll the
Both out of the sheep's clothing, right?
Well, we were talking about Angel earlier. You know, we were having a conversation on Jaffe's show, and they get into this whole conversation about streaming. And I was like, you know, I kind of get annoyed with streaming because it takes out my time where I can actually go in and edit videos because I really like to edit more than I do anything else, you know. And Angel goes, oh, that's just so annoying. I never edit. And Jaffe's like, yeah, I barely ever do it too, you know. And a year goes by, and I'm like, dude, you said on freaking Jaffe's show that you don't even freaking edit your own videos. He goes, when did I say that? And I'm like, I got it on video, dude. I can pull it up. You know, he got all quiet and everything. Me and Angel had the weirdest relationship.
He has it with everyone.
You know,
There's
Yeah,
that's congruent. That's the only thing you can say about that.
Mhm.
That's the same for everyone. That is different for everybody, just in the most profound ways. But you know, every organ, sensory nerve has its own molecular shape that it'll accept into it to spark an interaction. So whatever, right?
I'm gonna pretend like I understood what you just said. Yeah.
You got me.
It was like earlier, freaking Mark and Robot were talking to me, and we started talking about that crystal thing that we were just talking about, and I pointed some stuff out about oscillation and crystals being in computer systems, and they were talking about how smart I was, and I was like, give it about 30 minutes, I'll say something stupid, and that'll just go right down the toilet. You know, you're smart until you say something stupid.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, you know, that's why we're peer reviewed, right?
There you go. I used to know a guy named Broadway Joe. He had a bar, and he was a pretty wise guy. He said a couple of things that kind of stuck with me, and one was that you can be a really big asshole. You can be just consistently a jerk to people. You know, you can just be crude and selfish and this and that. But if one day you do something really nice for someone, people go, oh, he was really a good guy after all. Same time, you can be a really good guy, generous, helpful, really nice. You see where this is going, right? You're just really the best guy. Everyone loves you. Then you do one thing, you lose your temper. You do something really short or something really, they go, oh, guess he was really an asshole all the time.
Just making it up.
Kind of interesting how that works.
Reputation can be created and destroyed to one action. Yeah.
Mm.
It's like life has this way of well, I guess you could say no. I ain't even gonna call it karma, to be honest. Well, it could be because it has to do with action, doesn't it?
Well, karma means action, so yeah, arguably.
And speaking of which, your Mr. Robot,
Uh-huh.
I think he's run out of batteries. What's going on with him?
He didn't get Energizer. See, that's the thing.
No, he's Australian. He's solar powered.
Oh, that's right. Upside down.
Okay, and this is something cool. I want to bring something to this midnight late lines or midnight after midnight. What's it now?
After midnight.
Headlines after midnight. This is headlines.
Okay,
after
headlines
midnight.
after midnight. Gotcha. All right, so Mandela effect. Yeah. Oh, you didn't think I was going to take it there?
Yeah.
How many people remember the bunny rabbit having the battery in its back or in its foot? Where was the Energizer battery?
Yeah.
It was where? Say it again.
Duracell. Oh, sorry, I was just thinking you talking about the Duracell bunny. Was
Okay, you got it.
Yeah.
Isn't it? So,
Okay.
you busted the whole thing up before I can even actually play it out.
That's why.
Thank you, Mark Edworthy.
I told you.
You're very worthy, Edworthy. Thank you.
You never
Smartest man in the
play.
room. Smartest man in the room.
I mean, it's like you got to
Of course.
take people serious when they say stuff like that. Like Willie wasn't
I
lying,
believe
dude.
him when he talks about the consumerism and consumerism rights and stuff. We gotta talk. You got some serious background on this that
He will drive you crazy,
is
dude.
seriously underplayed. I think
He will drive
perhaps.
you crazy. Mark Edworthy is a man to be reckoned with, dude. Like you really need to be trained in to cope with Mr. Edworthy. He's a wild man. Because first he's
probably.
gonna he's
I'm a pussycat.
yeah, right. He hasn't even had a conversation
I would have
with you
believed
about
that if he
time
said
zones.
meow at the end of that. Then I would have believed him.
He's yet to have a conversation with you about time zones yet. Like when it comes to making sure you know what time it is.
You mean the green? What?
Like the green.
What was the time? Greenwich Mean Time? Are you mean? What's the meantime? What's happening in the meantime?
He doesn't like it when it's referred to
Oh,
as
you know
Greenwich.
what? That's where that came from, huh?
It's UTC, according to
Because
Universal.
that's the easier to reference.
Mhm.
This goes back many years. The mine staff used to do sort of monthly sort of public meetings, and they used to just stick ES. In fact, they quite often got it one. They always stuck EST when it was daylight saving times and vice versa, but they would never reference UTC. And beforehand, we were doing the Mines Community Open Source Initiative thing, and we were monthly meetings, which I was setting up the agendas and for. So obviously, I needed to clarify times, and I guess people. Nioki is the best one for this, actually. He will reference a specific time, but only mountain time, North American mountain time. And what does that mean to me? What does North American mountain time mean to me?
Well,
Doesn't mean anything.
you have to.
What does it mean to you? It's supposed to build something real to you. Relativity. Time is relative. So what does it mean to you?
Well,
That's the question.
he's Canadian too, though. You gotta. You know what I mean? It's like freaking.
I mean, it's one of those things. Is the question the answer? Is the answer the question?
With Naroki and a lot of the people I hang out with on here from Canada have that same kind of trait. You know what I mean? Where it's all about Canada.
Not only that, not only Canada, but the US.
No, believe it or not. I mean,
I know I piss you off.
If I say
but
something
I don't know the
anti-American,
word,
I might be a commie.
no, I mean you don't piss me off. You just get under my skin. That's it. Because you have that snooty English, I'm better than you Americans attitude.
You do the same.
No, I only say that the United States is the greatest nation that was ever created under the sun from the beginning of time until now.
You know what? I would. The only
Good
way
work,
I will
Ray
argue
Quinton.
with you on that.
You did
is
that.
It's the greatest corporation ever created.
You call it what you want. We are the greatest.
It's a corporation.
I
I'll
mean,
say that.
you know why I don't agree with Donald Trump? It's because we don't have to make America great again, dude. It is already great. We are the
Make America greater and great.
Right.
So are
George
we
Washington
gonna go there?
made
Are we gonna get
America
political?
great, dude.
I will just remind people here that Great Britain ruled a third of or 3/4 of the world
Is she still an empire?
at
Yes.
one point.
You guys still.
Commonwealth countries. They
But-
really, yeah.
Well, I mean, if you want to compare the British Empire compared to the U.S. Empire, we have military bases on like everywhere. I dare you to throw a
be
dart at
fair-
a globe and hit a country that we don't have a military base in.
To be fair, though, to Mark, if you go get a map and a map made around, I don't know, like 1901, and get it with the pink of the British Empire on it. Now, these aren't just places with military bases. These were places that were ruled directly by the crown or run by,
The Commonwealth.
very obviously puppet governments.
Yes.
Also their facilities compared, I mean, again, in another wonderful graphic, you can see like late Victorian or early Edwardian graphics of the size of the Royal Navy compared to the Navy of any other nation. It was truly a juggernaut in ways that, you can go on about the Mongols and stuff, but the amount of power that the empire possessed. And there was a wonderful little quote when I forget the exact situation, but it had to do with the wars going on all over the place, and the problem the British had with holding on to the empire. And finally, one of the generals just said, "The empire has too many enemies." And
Why they're not the biggest
that-
empire today, right?
Well,
Well-
they handed the empire over to the United States. This was something that Churchill and Eisenhower and Roosevelt cooked up. I mean, there was a lot of very anti-British feeling in the United States up until 1983 or 84. The Ancient Order of Hibernians, an Irish-American organization here in the United States, was openly sending arms, equipment, and money to the IRA. That was only stopped by Ronald Reagan in return for being allowed free hand in North Africa when he was doing some raids there or something, and he wanted the Brits to okay it, a special relationship. And they said, we really wish you would stop sending all those guns to the Irish, which they'd been doing ever since there were Irish people living here in the United States. They even had like an incident in Western New York where this bunch of Irish guys that had a militia actually invaded Canada because it was British. And they actually captured Niagara Falls or something. They had to give it back. They apologized and stuff. But so there was a lot of anti-British sentiment in this country. And when you look at the Lend-Lease, how that actually worked, we stripped the British exchequer bare. We took literally trillions of dollars today. I mean, look it up. I mean, the British businesses own some of the hugest industries, not just in this country, in other countries. And basically, Morgenthau and I'm sure it's a coincidence came to the Brits. They basically said, "We're not going to give you anything until we're sure you have nothing." And they were forced to sell out during wartime, all of these industries, this and that. And basically, they bankrupted the empire because Churchill refused to surrender or have an armistice or something, which Hitler was offering like crazy. He had no interest in the British Empire going anywhere. He had this whole geopolitical thing. He said the Brits are going to take care of India and this and that, and the Americans are going to take care of the savages over there, and the Japanese are going to take care of the Chinese savages, and I'm going to take care of the European savages. Kind of like what we had in the post-war world with the Eastern Bloc and the Western Bloc.